if you're focusing on like traditional PR as in media relations, that can do wonders for restaurants or whatever kind of brand. Like we've landed restaurants in like Fox News online and HLN and big like national TV spots. But at the end of the day, that might not be what they need to move the dollar signs. I don't want just like short-term relationships and short-term money. I want people that I can work with for a while. So that's something I try to think about.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 69 of the Andrew Deitch podcast. Hope you all are having an amazing 2018. My year has definitely been crazy packed so far, and we are just getting started. If this is your first time joining me here, what's up? Thanks for joining us today. It's so awesome to know that there are new people checking this podcast out for the first time. And I really appreciate that. You know, there are a million other things you could be listening to right now, and you decided to listen to this show. And in case you didn't know, this show is all about sharing stories and having amazing conversations with the most fascinating people that I know. And today is no different. My guest today is Noelle Jackson. And Noelle is an entrepreneur, a creator, she's a professional dancer, and her company, LPR, works with some of the best lifestyle and hospitality brands around the country. Not only do they offer media relations, but they have evolved over the last couple of years to incorporate more content marketing like social media advertising and content creation, which is totally necessary for brands to really compete in today's world. And over the past couple of years, she's gotten back into dancing. She was recently featured in the upcoming movie Night School, featuring Kevin Hart. And on this episode, we talked about her upbringing, how she started her company, how her company has evolved over the years, some of the biggest marketing mistakes that she sees brands making, how she got back into dancing, and so much more. And I had an awesome time getting to hang out with Noelle, and I think you guys will really enjoy it too. So without any further ado, please welcome the amazing Noelle Jackson. All right, it's real, it's live. All right, so I'm here with Noelle Jackson. Am I pronouncing it correctly?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Noelle like Christmas.
Yes. And there is an L, so it's not Noelle.
Yeah, it's Noelle.
Sorry, that was like the stupidest joke. Cool. Well, I just brought this up a second ago. I was saying that Matt B. Davis introduced us.
Yes.
And I figured I would give him a shout out.
Obstacle Racing Media.
Yes. How do you know Matt, by the way?
I met Matt maybe a year ago. We used to share office space at Alkaloid, which is on the Beltline right next to Lady Bird.
Yep, little
and
red
we
door.
Worked there. Yeah, have you been there?
Yep, I hung out with him a couple days ago.
Oh,
we were talking podcast stuff.
Podcasts are blowing up.
They really are. They really are blowing up. And that's the funny thing is we were just talking about how I've been thinking about starting a podcast for a while. Mm-hmm. And so it kind of makes me frustrated that I didn't start it earlier because now it just feels like I'm a part of the fad.
Yeah.
You know, like it just feels, I don't know, I feel like, okay, I've been a fan of podcasts for a long time. I'm not just like a poser that just
But you have a lot of
them.
episodes. I feel like you have a good content bank. So you're not somebody that has 5 to 6 episodes.
Exactly. Thank you. I appreciate that because that is a frustrating thing too because I think a lot of people want to jump into the space just to say that they're in the space, but they're not really committed 100%. And so like you said, they'll put out 5 or 6 episodes.
And then they disappear.
Like, yeah, I'll do like 1 a month. Mm-hmm. And I'm over here like doing like 10, 12 a month, like in the beginning.
Which is insane.
Yeah,
It's a lot.
Especially in the beginning, I was really, really, really pumping them out because I wanted to get it into people's heads. Like, this isn't just like something I'm trying. I really want to do this. I'm really committed. So that's what I did.
Awesome. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Well, anyways, enough talking about my own podcast. I feel so meta on here all the time talking about my own show on my show. It's
Why
ridiculous.
not?
Right? But so Noelle, we got introduced by Matt and he was like, Noelle seems like a really perfect fit for your show. And so just give people like a really I don't know, just like a quick, in a nutshell of what you do currently.
Yeah.
And then we can kind of go back and kind of share your story.
Yeah, so I feel like Matt said I would make a good candidate for your show because I'm sort of all over the place, but not really. I have a marketing PR business called LPR that I've had for 4 years now, which is great. And I danced growing up, and then I stopped for 10 years. But I picked that up over the last couple of years and started dancing professionally last year, and worked on my first movie and did some cool shows. So I'm juggling content marketing and public relations with dancing all the time, which is a little bit different, I guess.
I feel like they could go kind of hand in hand though. Like you're being like artistic in the dancing side, and then you also kind of have to be creative and artistic on the brand side of stuff nowadays. Yeah,
that's true. And I like it because I can be artsy fartsy when I'm dancing, and then that business side of me that wants to come out with clients, that's kind of where I channel that energy. But you still have to be super creative, so it's fun. And it keeps me on my toes for sure.
That, no pun intended.
Yeah, exactly. I got that one.
That was good. Well, cool. So kind of you mentioned that you started dancing when you were younger and everything. And I mentioned that this is kind of like the premise of my show in some ways, is I like to share, you know, I can look at Noelle of today and I think, oh, you know, she's really cool. She's got a business. She's a dancer. But it wasn't always that way. And most people that know you currently might not even know, you know, where you came from or how you got to where you are. So, I mean, just kind of take us back and tell us, I guess, like the milestones of kind of how you evolved.
Oh, God. Okay. Well, I grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I danced from like 7 to 18, which was wonderful. Dance was my life. I was like a straight A student, danced like 7 days a week, was on dance team. Everyone thought I would go on to be a professional dancer. But then I just kind of stopped suddenly. I had some family stuff happen, and I grew up, I had everything I needed in many ways, but we were like super broke. So that was something that I saw my parents struggle with a lot, and I didn't want to be broke my whole life, like struggling to pay bills and stuff. So I decided to go to college and like try to figure out a way to make a decent living, basically. So that's what I did. I went to UT Knoxville, and then I moved to Atlanta in like the end of 2010 and was finishing school. I had an internship and started doing marketing. I had a couple full-time marketing jobs, and I just hated having a desk job. It made me miserable. I hate like sitting in one place all the time. So then I decided to start a business. I got my first client, which is this restaurant in Buckhead called Salt Yard. They're still there. They're amazing. And once I signed with them, I still had a full-time job doing marketing, and I said, fuck it, like, why not try it now? So I quit my job and just started building a business and had no idea what I was doing, but it kind of just grew from there. Like, people from Salt Yard would refer me to another client, or I don't know, people that I worked with in the media would send me clients, and it just sort of grew from a very tiny little baby.
That's awesome. I feel like that's how most businesses kind of grow, is I think a lot of people are too afraid. They put so much like into the preparation of things before pulling the trigger on anything. So then once they finally get to that point, they're already like so exhausted from setting things up and then flopping on their face and then like getting really discouraged. But it's like, you get so many referrals once you kind of just start doing something.
Exactly.
Like going from 0 to 1 is always the hardest thing to do.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, planning is very important. If I were to do it again, or like had a friend that wanted to do it, I would try to give them all the advice that I didn't have. But at the end of the day, you figure it out. And that's what being an entrepreneur is, like not always knowing how to do something, but figuring it out.
Yeah. So. Because I think nowadays entrepreneurship is kind of this like sexy thing that has become very, like Mark Zuckerberg, like everyone wants to be an entrepreneur, but it like wasn't always the case. Like people kind of look down on that in some ways. Like you need a stable job. You need to go out there and work for a large company and get good benefits and blah, blah, blah. Like, were your parents entrepreneurial at all, or did they have like...
No, not at all. My parents met in the Army. But then they had normal jobs. My dad was a mailman for a really long time, and now he works for the government doing like government contracts.
He's just been government all the way. Army, postman, government, more.
getting that pension. So,
yep.
You know,
hey, you can't
makes sense.
Yeah, you can't hate on the pension.
Yeah. My mom had all different kinds of jobs. So no, that was something I had no idea what running a business was like. And it was terrifying. Like the first year I was so stressed.
Yeah.
And I was having a conversation with my girlfriends the other day because one was talking to a friend of ours and like saying, why don't you just start your own business? Which I admire that drive, but I also try to let people know it's not sexy and glamorous and easy. Like it's really hard sometimes. But it's also really great. I get to create the life I want. So it's worth it to me, but I don't think everyone understands exactly what to expect at first, you know?
Yeah. I feel like I bring up Gary Vaynerchuk like all the time on the show. Do you follow Gary Vaynerchuk at all?
Remind me, is he a marketing guy?
Yeah, Gary V, he's like, I don't know, he's just like got his fingers in everything, but he's like marketing guy. He's always talking about, you know, marketing in the digital age, marketing in the age you live in, actually using like, I don't know, just he just puts out tons of content and all this stuff. But anyways, one of his things is he says that, you know, not everyone's cut out to be an entrepreneur, even though now it's becoming this like sexy thing and everyone wants to do it.
Exactly.
It's like there's nothing wrong being like the number two to an entrepreneur, or
Not
like being
all.
like another person that works for
or being
an
a
entrepreneur
fucking
or whatever.
plumber or doing whatever. I mean, our whole society is not built around everyone being an entrepreneur. It's wonderful. And I think if there's something you're passionate about and you want to do it, then do it. Like, don't let fear stop you. But I just feel like the way it's being spun now, it's not exactly how it really is.
Yeah.
know?
And I think it's also kind of just people that they have that entrepreneurial like spirit or mindset, but maybe they don't end up actually like being the sole owner of a thing.
Right.
But like working for a startup has like very, you could be working for that startup, but you kind of have these like entrepreneurial quote unquote tendencies, and you might like mesh better there than actually being the one that runs a business and you're the sole person that's at the head or whatever. It's fine to be like a worker for another entrepreneur or whatever.
Totally.
And I think like a lot of people are getting shunned for that in some ways, but in other ways, you know, it's becoming like the new norm, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's silly. It's just going to be interesting to see where we all are in like 20 years because you see those reports that are saying things like, you know, millennials are going to be in the worst financial situation that any generation has been in a while. And that's a little unnerving, but I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah. I mean, I did a podcast yesterday with my friend Brian, and he does like a lot of work with physical stuff. Like he buys equipment and then stores it and resells it and all this.
Oh, wow.
And it's really crazy because it's like all this physical stuff. He has to move around like actual objects in space. And I'm
like the opposite of what I do.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of dying. And he said, you know, one of the things he said is like, you could start a business being like a garbage collecting thing, but no one wants to do that.
Right.
And it's like a lot of people are shunning these like manual labor type jobs, even though they sometimes pay a decent living, and like, but this new generation like doesn't want to do that. They don't want to get their hands dirty, and they want to like, I'm going to be a digital entrepreneur or whatever.
I know.
And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just very interesting, like you said, to see where all this goes.
I agree.
It's kind of scary in some ways, but you know, you got to add value to the world in some way.
Yeah, and you got to live your life. So.
But anyways, to go back for a second, so you were saying that your parents were like not entrepreneurial.
No.
And you were dancing a lot. Were your parents into dancing, or did you just like stumble into that?
They were into me, so they were into my dancing. No, my best friend in second grade, her name's Lauren. She was a dancer, and I wanted to hang out with Lauren, so I started taking jazz class, and then I kind of had like a natural talent for it and started taking all the classes, and then did studio dance and dance team and competitions, and went out to LA a couple times for like dance scholarships. So it just kind of started really small and got a little bit bigger.
Yeah, and you said you were a straight A student, so you were like really into school?
I mean, school was easy.
Yeah.
I was a straight A student until like junior year. Then I had a little bit of a rebellious period and my grades went down a little, but I still graduated with a good GPA. public school, high school is like very, very easy. I feel like if you just do the work, a lot of it's busy work. So
definitely, I would agree. Yeah, and I think a lot of times the reason why kids don't do well in school is not because they're stupid.
Yeah, it's just so boring.
Yeah, it's just so boring and like, no, I don't want to do homework and stuff like that, you know? And yeah, it's kind of a frustrating system. That's a whole nother podcast. But
true. Get someone from APS.
Yeah. Very, very big changes I think need to happen in that space.
I agree.
But and then you said you went to UT Knoxville.
Mm-hmm.
And you...
my hometown.
Very nice.
I studied communications, and then I had like a semester left before I was supposed to graduate, and my advisor called me into the office and said, oh, we made a mistake. You have like a couple credits that are left off, so it's going to be another semester, a full year. And I had always wanted to leave Knoxville, and at that point I freaked out and was like, if I don't leave now, I'm going to die here. So I found a school, Indiana University, that let me finish online. And I moved here, and there was just like more interesting businesses here that I found. I moved here and I didn't know anybody. And my first apartment was at Ponce Springs Lofts by Ponce City Market. And I finished school online and had internships and waitressing jobs and just kind of got to know Atlanta.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
That's awesome.
It's been 7 years now, which
That's
is
awesome.
nuts. Yeah.
2000. So it was like 2010, you moved here.
The end of 2010, like November.
Gotcha. And so you just like, how did you decide on this area? Just, it was a cool area? And
I wanted to be in a big city, but New York or LA seemed like very intimidating. And I didn't know anyone here either, but Atlanta seemed fun. I'd been here a couple of times to visit on the weekend with my boyfriend. And so I just kind of Googled like fun areas in Atlanta, and I thought Midtown looks fun. Like, yeah, let's do that. And I Googled like upscale restaurants and bars to find like a cocktail waitressing job. And then I found an internship at Little Pink Book, which was this, was originally like a magazine for women entrepreneurs. And I got some great experience there and just kind of figured it out as I went, basically.
That's awesome. So then you said like how did you evolve into your own business again? You started working with one client and then it just kind of snowballed?
Well, I had full-time marketing jobs for doing restaurant marketing, and I had an advertising sales job that I hated also. But I started my business when I had the full-time restaurant marketing job. And I'd done like small gigs on the side with people I met from like PRSA, which is Public Relations Society of America, like little things like that. But when I had that full-time restaurant marketing job, that's when I started working with Salt Yard, just as like an independent client. And then I just kind of stopped and started my business from there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been fun.
And so for people that are listening that don't really know what PR is on the real side of things, like oh yeah, public relations, you like deal with the media and stuff like that. But like what would you define PR as, and like how have you guys evolved, I guess?
Well, it can be really broad, and I feel like most people, you say PR and they don't really know what it means. Initially, my clients were a lot of people in the food space, chefs and restaurants, and now we work with more food brands, still some restaurants, larger restaurants, beauty brands, but we do a lot of content marketing, so we create like video and photography for clients. We do strategy. So if we know they want to reach girls that are like 25 to 40 who are really into health and fitness and beauty, then we kind of help them create profiles of their customers and basically help them figure out how their brand should talk to them. So I like it because I feel like it's like self-expression for brands. We're helping them do that in a way that helps them make money, which is like the best way to do it.
Making money is always fun.
Yeah, why not? So it's fun. And then we pitch media. So we do local and national media pitching and just kind of help them figure out what specific things about their story is the most interesting that people would want to hear. So we do that too. And then we do things like social media advertising. Facebook ads are great. Facebook knows everything about us. Mm-hmm. So that's a good way to reach people. But yeah, it's fun. It's kind of helping businesses figure out who they are. And I do mostly consumer businesses. So it makes it a little more creative and fun.
Yeah, because you're reaching like direct to normal people rather than...
And it's fun. It's things that I'm interested in. Like I love food and I love health and and beauty and lifestyle brands. So that makes it really fun. And then I love my clients too.
Yeah,
so.
That's great. Because, I mean, I feel like a lot of times people just go for the money. Like, oh, I'm going to try to be the ad agency for chiropractors because they make a lot of money. Or I'm going to go try to talk to these people. And it's cool that you kind of went into stuff that you were actually interested in and that you liked working in.
And the other reason I did it is because like from high school on, I worked in restaurants just while I was in school. So it sort of helped having an understanding of hospitality business when I first started. And then it's evolved from there. But it's not fun to work with a brand that you're not passionate about, or you don't at least think they have a great story or something great to offer. So that's why we've stuck in this lane.
Yeah. You know? Did you ever struggle with like imposter syndrome? Like I tend to struggle with that a lot, where I know that I'm like in my head, I know that I'm like good enough, or I know that I can offer something of value, but then in the back of my head or like in my heart, I'm like, am I like overcharging for this, or am I like actually providing value for this person?
Totally. That's something that even still there are days that I struggle with that in the beginning. It was really intense. And then you undercharge long enough and realize how much value you're providing people and like how much time it takes. And then you raise your prices, basically. But the way I combat that, I'm like really into meditation and spirituality and stuff. And I just try to like always make sure I'm learning something. And I don't know, I care about my clients. I really admire people that have a business. Like one of my clients now is, his dad started his first restaurant in 1982, and now they're like opening their sixth. It's this Greek place called Grecian Euro. And they have such a great family story, and they care so much about their business. So when you work with people like that, you do everything you can to make sure you're helping them. And when you know that, the imposter syndrome goes away a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, or a lot.
I think I saw their logo on your website, and it said like "Go Greek once a week." Is that them?
Yeah.
I thought
really
that was
good.
like the most genius like little slogan.
Really?
Yeah, because I was like, that's so smart. Because when you get that in your head, like, yeah, I could go for Greek food once a week. You know what I mean? Because sometimes it might, I don't know, like at least in this area, we don't have like tons of like Greek food. Yeah. So it's not always top of mind when you're thinking like, oh, where should we go? But like once you kind of get that like slogan in your head, you're kind of like, yeah, I could do Greek once a week.
I can't take credit for it, but it is a great slogan, and their gyros are amazing.
Yeah, I need to go check it out because I love Greek food. But I saw that, I was like, I like that a lot. It's kind of cute and clever. But anyways, that's a side tangent. But that's really cool because I think a lot of people definitely struggle with that when they're starting their own business, especially something like, advertising and helping brands like create an avatar, create like their ideal customer and stuff like that. Because right off the bat, it might not be something that they can make money with it like immediately. But once they get like clear on that, it's something that will help them make tons of money later on. That's
the other thing too is, in the beginning, you pretty much, for me at least, you take work wherever you can find it. But then you sort of I've refined my best customer as to the brands I can help the most. And it's not always the tiny mom and pop single location restaurant because they just don't have the budget to invest, what they need to invest for us to put our best work forward. And sometimes people call you in and it's just too late, or they just need like a whole business overhaul, and that's not exactly what we do. Yeah. So you figure out who you can help the most and focus on that.
What do you try to do, if anything, like what do you do when you realize that this is not your ideal customer?
Now I have a great like consult interview. I know what to ask and I know what to look for just to see if we're a fit for one another, because it's a relationship. It's not us just providing a service. Like we need to be able to communicate really well so we can get all the information from them so we can create really great work. So just getting an idea of who you have to work with, what their personality is like, getting an idea of how much money they're bringing in a year, what their expectations are. That's huge. Like what they think they should be doing marketing wise. I've just kind of created like a profile so I know what to ask. And then within a few minutes, I can have a decent idea whether it's a good potential client.
Yeah.
I don't want to waste anybody's time. If we can't help them, then I don't want to take their money,
Exactly. That's a great way of doing business, because I think a lot of people, especially in the beginning, they're just so desperate for clients that they might know deep down that it's not ideal, but they go for it anyways just because they see dollar signs.
I think that's why PR gets a bad rep too, especially with hospitality, is if you're focusing on like traditional PR as in media relations, that can do wonders for restaurants or whatever kind of brand. Like we've landed restaurants in like Fox News online and HLN and big like national TV spots. But at the end of the day, that might not be what they need to move the dollar signs. So I think sometimes some agencies might know that long term it's not what people need, but they do it anyway because they have a business to run. My business is small. I have a small team. We work remotely sometimes. Sometimes we work in our office, and I don't want just like short-term relationships and short-term money. I want people that I can work with for a while. So yeah, that's something I try to think about.
Yeah. And I also feel like when you're kind of, like you said, some of these other companies that mainly are trying to get you in the media and all this stuff, but it might not be the best thing long term. It's almost kind of like when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. It's like, we offer this thing, so I'm going to sell you on the fact that this is the number one thing. Yeah. Even though you might know, like, okay, but a lot of that'll happen in insurance or something like, oh, we're this type of insurance, so this is the best kind you should go for. Whereas if you go to another place, they might sell you a different type of insurance or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly it.
When you're, another thing that I was going to ask you, you said that you have a small team now, obviously, and people get intimidated by hiring.
Yeah, it's scary.
Especially when you start off and it's just you.
Yeah.
When did you know it was the time to like expand and bring on more people? And like, how did you go about that? Because that's something I think that a lot of people struggle with.
I knew it was time when I was making a little, my revenue went up a little bit and I just couldn't get everything done. And I was an emotional wreck, basically. I was so stressed. And I just couldn't do it all. And you come to this point. I was talking to another friend of mine that has a business where you know you need to hire someone, but you don't have the time to train them and to get them up to speed. And you want to try to hire someone before that, ideally. That doesn't always happen, but you have to make the time. And if you can, set up like, you know, obviously a job description and like a little handbook or manual so they can look somewhere and they don't have to ask you questions for every single thing. Yeah. But definitely referrals, anyone that you've worked with. That's how I find a lot of like photo and video people that we work with. And then you can just use them for small projects. It's not like an ongoing employment kind of situation, so that's easy. I found people mostly from recommendations. Hippopotamus, I've used them to post job descriptions, but usually I like to just ask either other business owners or professionals I know and get recommendations that way. You can find someone in all kinds of different ways. There's no telling, really. Yeah.
And also, I mean, there's people out there looking for jobs. So it's not like, I mean, because on both ends of the spectrum, oh, there's not enough jobs. Oh, there's not enough good people out there. You know, it's like there's people on both sides, but you're totally right. If you just put something out there, like you'll find the right person. But yeah, I think a lot of people just struggle with, like you said, hiring someone early enough that you still have time and effort and energy to train that person before it's too late and you're already like, you know, stumbling down the hill of being overwhelmed and, you know, all that. Yeah, it's not a fun situation at all. Definitely not. So I wanted to talk also about dancing, of course, because you said in the past couple of years you kind of got back into it. Which was really wonderful and really scary. I definitely have dealt with the imposter syndrome with dancing too, because 10 years, like literally 10 years not dancing, it's like a lifetime. So I went into my first class back. It was like a lyrical jazz class, which is sort of like something in between jazz and ballet. It's super emotional. It was always one of my favorite styles. People call it contemporary too. And it was hard and my body was like out of shape, but then it started to come back, and I initially started just because I missed moving. Like my body actually hurt from not dancing. So that got me back into it. I just wanted to dance a couple of times a week, and then
I thought, oh, I still like have my little girl dream of wanting to dance professionally. So, I mean, that's what I'm doing now. I took a week or so off, which wasn't great for the holidays in between Christmas and New Year's, but I guess now you would call it like freelance commercial dance. So you train at studios all the time. I'm part of a great dance company called Dare Dream Dance that's based in Atlanta. And the founder is great. She's danced with like Beyonce and all these amazing people. I got to work on my first movie last year, which was wonderful. It was a movie with Kevin Hart called Night School. And it's like gig to gig. It's great and stressful and lots of Epsom salt baths, lots of stretching.
Yeah, definitely lots of stretching. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've like dancing is always like in my mind, I've never been like much of a dancer, and when I was younger, I didn't really like respect what it was. And now that I've gotten older and like realized like how hard it is and stuff, like especially when you're like classically trained doing like professional dancing rather than, you know, just going out and like dancing.
Yeah.
I used to just be like, oh, that's boring. Like, you know, just being like a little boy, just like, that's dumb, that's girly stuff.
Yeah.
But like now I can actually appreciate it a lot more because I'm like, oh crap, like I definitely know I can't do that. Like as far as a skill level, and then also just like how do you even do that move or whatever?
Yeah.
It's become like more of a thing that I can appreciate.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really appreciate it before.
Well, that's awesome. That makes me happy as a dancer. I think a lot of people don't get it.
Yeah.
An ex-boyfriend of mine, one day, it really pissed me off too. He said, I just don't get dancing. Like, what's the point of dancing? And I looked at him. I feel like things went downhill from that point on. But yeah, it's great. And it takes a lot of physical strength and capability and emotional too. There's a lot of rejection. It's not easy to go into a room with a number on your crop top and your leggings and like dance your heart out and have people just say like, okay, thank you. Like, we'll let you know. It's not easy. And you can kind of get in your own head and compare yourself. That's one of the hardest things. It's not comparing yourself to other dancers, like what they have to offer. At the end of the day, you're selling yourself, and it's whether they want you. So you have to kind of get out of your head and just get into your body and your heart, which isn't always easy. And it's something that's sort of hard for me sometimes when I go from like running a business to getting in the studio or getting on stage. Like I have to like get myself back to more of the pure artist side of myself. So that's something I'm still learning how to juggle, but it's great.
Yeah, I feel like also because you were out of it for so long, was it hard to tap back into that?
Yeah, it took a while.
Because you're so focused on like the technical part of it that you can't really get in the emotional side.
Yeah,
maybe?
And it's one of those things where you can't think about it in dance. You just have to do it. So that took a while, and it's kind of like you have to submit to it, which sounds weird because there's so much like effort that you have to exert, but you kind of just have to give in also. So it's weird. It's hard to explain.
Yeah, I was going to say the only thing I can try to compare it to that I've experienced is yoga.
Oh, you do yoga?
Yeah, I've gotten into yoga a lot recently. And like that's the one thing that in the beginning I was always trying to compare myself to the other people in the class. And I would get really in my head about that. And I'd be like, oh, I can do this move like better than this person, but oh crap, like I can't go as far in this position or whatever.
And then it ruins the whole practice because it's about connecting with yourself and, you know, higher energy, whatever you believe. Some people just do it for physical health, which is great too. But I don't know, you kind of lose the essence of what you're doing if you're thinking about it that way. But it's easy to do.
But it's also kind of like what you said, you kind of have to like give into it, even though it's like physically, you can't think about it too much.
Right.
Like
exactly.
if you're thinking about like, should I like go into child's pose and not do this pose? Or you just know that pose is coming next, so you just like anticipate it and go. Like that's kind of how I would kind of equate that, I guess. Because I've never done like classically trained dancing or anything like that. I can't relate on that level, but I guess that would be the one thing that I can like.
That is a good comparison, yeah.
And that's another thing, as a guy, I think a lot of guys are hesitant to get into something like that, like get into yoga or whatever. Like, I think it's becoming more normalized.
It's changing finally, which is great. I love seeing guys in yoga class.
Yeah, and it's definitely becoming a more normal thing because, I mean, at the end of the day, it's an exercise just like anything else, you know. I mean, I think yoga has this I guess, like stigma of like yoga pants and like, oh, we're going to go to yoga and go get Starbucks afterwards. Like,
yeah,
you know,
the basic factor.
Yeah, exactly. But there's a lot of people that are really, you know, serious about it. And also you kind of get that like little bit of the like woo-woo spiritual side too that some people aren't as like into.
Well, why did you start doing it? Was it more just for exercise or for exercise and spirituality?
It was, so the first class that I went to, my dad like invited me to go to it, and it was just like yin yoga. It was really just like restorative, very easy, simple poses. And I knew the instructor because I've been going to this gym for like a really long time, so I just like I knew her and all this stuff. So I went to her class and I enjoyed it. And then I was like realizing that I was enjoying it a lot more, and also realizing that I wasn't very flexible. And I was like, okay, it's kind of like if you don't use it, you lose it sort of deal. I feel like a lot of people when they're older, they're very inflexible. Their bodies are breaking down. So I realized that I wanted to make that a priority, I guess. And so it was more of the fitness side of things, but also now I've realized that I just feel really good after the class, like, because like so much gets put into perspective, I guess, when you're...
Yeah, I agree. I love doing yoga first thing in the morning. It doesn't always happen, but it's nice. And if you go to a studio that has like hot yoga and has the heated room, it's just the nicest way to start the day, especially when it's cold outside.
Exactly. Yeah, and I've been doing it a lot more. That's one of my like New Year's resolutions or whatever. But anyways,
that's a good one.
Yeah, and I'm not one to make like typically like, oh, I'm gonna make a New Year's resolution because I feel like it's kind of cheesy a little bit. Like, okay, well, I've also been trying to do a lot more yoga in the end of 2017 too. Right. So it wasn't like all right, day one, let's start doing this. It was like a gradual thing. But
I'm the same way.
Yeah. New Year's resolutions always kind of have like a weird taste in my mouth. Like,
I feel like they're made to be broken. The things I'm focusing on this year, mostly they're a continuation of what I was focusing on last year. Like there might be some specific goals that I want to achieve that are new, but it's the same stuff for the most part.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we're talking about dancing and stuff.
Yes.
How do you get like... I'm sure that you get referrals and stuff like that. Like you said, you're dancing with a company and all that. But like when you got in the movie, like you said, did you have to go through all that, like the process of trying, what is it, auditioning? I was going to say tryouts. That sounds like high school sports or something.
It's the same premise though.
Yeah. So you go to like an audition, and callbacks and all that kind of stuff. Was that like nerve-wracking for you to go back into that?
I'd been auditioning for a little while before that, so it wasn't awful. I'd sort of started to get used to it, but my agency called me and said, there's a movie, we want to send a few of our dancers. So I went, and you never know what to expect. Sometimes you go in and they're like, freestyle, go. And then sometimes they teach you a routine. Sometimes they want to hear what other skills you have. It just depends. So for that one, I knew we were playing teenagers. And so I had like, you pick out your little outfit that looks kind of commercial teenager, not too sexy, kind of family friendly, really young. That was what my agent told me, to look young. And so you go in, and I think for that audition, they just had us freestyle. And then I think they booked us right away. There was no callback. But I was really excited to get the job. The choreographer was from LA. It was wonderful to work with her, and we had a few rehearsals. Kevin came into one rehearsal. I feel like he's just always funny. He never turns off. It was really early in the morning, and they'd been shooting till like 4 a.m. the night before, so he was tired and cranky, but he was still really great and really funny. Yeah, I feel like he works so hard, and it's paying off, but that was great. And then it was just a one shoot day. We were there like all day. They take you into hair and makeup and give you your dress. It was for like a prom scene. And there's a lot of waiting around on set. You're in your trailer or just on the set, and then you shoot like so many times so they can get it from all different kinds of angles. Try not to get too sweaty. Yeah. And then we were done, and that was it.
That's awesome.
You get your check, so it was fun.
There we go.
Yeah.
One day, get your check.
Yeah, it was fun.
It's always fun. I've been thinking about this because my friend was talking about, he works on the set of The Walking Dead.
Oh,
he was talking about like how much time you have to like just have downtime and everyone's just waiting. Like, I've been trying to think of a way that you could, like, monetize that, like, waiting time somehow. Like, something easy that, like, I don't know. Or, like, some way that you could do something that would be a positive thing rather than just waiting around. You know what I mean? Because
I don't know, yeah.
I don't know. That was just something I'm like, there's got to be a way that you can, like, make money from the time just spending, like, waiting around on set or something like that.
If you figure it out, let me know.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
Yeah.
I bring a book, and I mean, I have my phone, so you can answer emails, but other than that, it wasn't very productive. It was just hanging out with the other dancers.
Yeah.
And it's fun to watch what's going on set, too, especially... I think it would be great on the Walking Dead set, but on a movie, like, there's so much happening, and you're watching the director and all the actors and the other dancers and the extras. So it's kind of cool just to take it all in also and learn a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You mentioned, like, you bring your phone so you can email and all that stuff. One thing that I think a lot of people, I guess... I don't know, for me, for example, sometimes I struggle with, like, being able to turn on my work mode when I'm, like, on the go, or, like, you know, so sometimes I really, if I want to write out an email, I'm like, I just need to, like, get to my computer and, like, write this out. Like, how do you balance that? Because you said you sometimes don't work at the office, you're, like, work remotely and stuff. Like, how do you balance that?
I mean, I try to have somewhat standard business hours. It really depends on the project load, because we might have a client that's just like a project basis for 3 months, and then we have ongoing clients. So it kind of just depends on the flow. If I know I won't be available, I'll have somebody else on my team that can help me. I'm looking at hiring an assistant now. It's like a constant figuring out how to make this work. But at the end of the day, as long as I know my clients are happy, it doesn't require, I normally don't have to talk to people every single day as far as clients, because we have set check-in times or set meetings, and we provide them reports and updates on a regular basis. So that's the great thing that makes it possible for me to do this, is I can sort of create my own schedule to a certain extent. Like, if something happens and somebody really needs me, obviously I have to figure that out, but you can kind of build your life around whatever else is going on, which is nice.
Yeah, I'm realizing more and more that having the right systems in place is, like, the super, super important. Because, you know, if you don't have the right systems in place, people don't have the same expectations as you do, and then you're dealing with that. And then you're also dealing with people constantly needing you because you haven't given them the right thing.
Yeah, and you never want to feel like your clients are reaching out to you needing stuff. You want to, like, make sure they have everything they need before they even think to say, like, oh, I wonder why they haven't sent me this update. So, yeah, that helps a lot. Just kind of in the very beginning, we give them, like, a client welcome guide and say, this is what you can expect. Like, this is when we report, yada, yada, yada. Things can always change because the project is like a living thing, but they at least know what to expect, and that keeps us accountable. So
yeah, and I also feel like when you kind of have that, like, welcome package or whatever, also people are, like, really happy that they chose you. You know what I mean? They're like, they're excited that, okay, cool, we've chosen this person to be we've chosen this company, and, like, okay, cool, they've got their shit together. Like, you know, that's, like, one thing that I recently did with my podcast, like, welcome guide.
Which I loved. It was so great.
Good.
It gave me, like, all the what to expect. Don't be nervous about this. It was great. And that's what people want to see. You want to know what to expect. Yeah. Before you do something new.
Managing expectations.
Yeah. And honestly, huge. For me, being really structured and having systems and processes in my business has become, like, so important. Once I added dance to the mix, I feel like to have freedom, you have to have a lot of structure and dedication. So that's how this is working right now. Yeah,
that makes sense. Because, I mean, like I said, I've been realizing the same thing, because I've also, when you create systems, you can eliminate so much of the monotony of, like, dealing with the same stuff all the time. Mm-hmm. You can, like, create it once and send it off to somebody. It makes life a lot easier.
It makes it so much easier.
Yeah. What do you see, like, the biggest mistakes that people are making in regards to what you provide to them on, like, on a PR side of things, content creation? Like, because obviously people are kind of trying to do it on their own before they hire you, right? Or maybe not even attempting it. What do you think the biggest mistakes are that people are making in today's world?
I mean, I just feel like you can only do so much. So having an employee that's also sort of helping you with social media and taking photos, sometimes there's no strategy behind it. And then you wonder why you don't get results, or they focus on one thing. Like they decide to start doing Facebook ads and are doing no other kinds of marketing or have no strategy, and they don't get the results they want. Like, you kind of have to look at where they are now, what the goals are, and it's never just one thing. Like, you have to create a program or start with a smaller piece. So it's just putting the thought behind it and the strategy and having people that know what they're doing.
Yeah.
That makes a big difference. Otherwise, you're just kind of randomly creating content or posting or like pitching the media. You have to be consistent.
Yeah. I definitely see a lot of companies, like you said, hiring that one employee that like, oh yeah, update our Instagram or whatever, but they also have a main job too.
Yeah.
And that's like a whole nother thing. Cause I think especially a lot of business owners, they're like, oh, we have this young guy or girl that's my employee, and
it's always give it to the young
Instagram.
person.
Yeah, they know how to work the Instagram.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people that they're like, oh yeah, I can totally do that. I can update pictures and all that stuff. It's like, but they might not know how to do it in a business context, because updating your pictures on your personal Instagram is a lot different than.
I mean, it's for the best ROI and to really create the brand you want and engage the kinds of people that you want. You know, you have to put a little thought into that. So when we start working with someone, we think about what are your key brand messages and values, and then pretty much all the content we create ties back to those values. So it's always consistent, even though it's showcasing your brand in like a variety of different ways. Or, you know, sometimes we'll bring in other products or services, and then you can cross promote it, which is even better. You know, you can reach new audiences. So it's just putting thought into it, and having the tools makes a huge difference in the quality. So yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming that, like, because I do a lot of marketing on Instagram for my podcast, so like I
love your little clips for the podcast episodes.
Thank you.
They're really cool.
I really appreciate that. I'm trying to dedicate more time to making those too. But like for me, like I said, I do a lot on Instagram, and I think that a lot of people, I guess, don't really understand like why they're posting on stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or they just think like, oh, having pictures on here is...
That's the worst, is when you're just pushing shit out and it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I cringe a little bit when I see that sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. And I also see a lot of brands that are just constantly like, buy the thing, buy the thing, buy the thing, and they're not like playing around, sort of like being playfully and like creating content like around their space, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you don't always go for the hard sell. Like, you very rarely, almost never go for the hard sell. It's creating a conversation and just showing people why your product, like how it could help them, or fun ways to use it, or like tying into seasonal things that are happening in the city. Like yesterday, it could have been the Georgia-Alabama game, thinking a little bit in advance. And so that's something we do, is you look at the calendar and you think about the brand and just think about all the interesting ways to talk about it and to talk to your customer, basically.
Yeah.
It's not about you, you know, it's about how you can serve them and do it in a fun way.
Yeah. What do you use for your content calendar, by the way? Like what like applications, like Trello or...
So we use Asana for project management, but we have a really basic thing we use Report Garden for reporting and like Facebook Insights, and that kind of aggregates everything from like organic posts to the paid stuff too. But we just have a template that we created with Google Sheets that we like load everything in, and we have the date, the time, the image or video, and that way sometimes you have clients that want to see what you're going to post up front, so we might schedule it like 2 weeks in advance and send it to them so they can look at it, they can see all the dates, and then of course we schedule it and monitor and like respond back to posts live. But planning makes a big difference.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I'm always curious about the back end of that, because I see so many, like, Because on a personal Instagram level or personal Facebook level, you kind of just post when you're thinking about it, or like, oh, this idea popped in my head, or oh, I went to this restaurant, so I'm going to take a picture and post it to Instagram.
Yeah.
But like for
Which
a
is
brand,
great. Spontaneous posts are nice too. Sometimes, you know, that's good to add into the mix also.
For sure, because sometimes it can feel too forced, I think, and too calculated, which makes you like second guess everything that's being said sometimes, I feel like.
Yeah, and it's good to give people like a look at behind the scenes that isn't always so curated. So, I don't know, you just don't be stupid about how you do that, but it can be nice to be spontaneous for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Because especially on like Instagram stories now, I feel like that's a way that you can kind of be spontaneous without like being too formal about stuff.
Yeah, and you don't have to have the same like resolution quality that you might have on your actual feed. So
do you think that like, I mean, because obviously when you're posting pictures on an Instagram for brands, like you're probably using pictures that were not necessarily shot on a phone. I mean, sometimes they might be. Do you think that like it's stepping up its quality so much that you're almost expected to re-upload a picture from another camera or something?
Sort of, which is, I don't know how I feel about that, but basically, normally we do content shoots. So we go and we have like a list for the season or whatever time for a few months or a few weeks, and we get all the content and all the different shots, and then we use it for that period of time. So yeah, because I don't think that's really how they designed the application. Now there are definitely expectations of what it should look like. You can get good shots on an iPhone, obviously. People shoot movies on iPhones now, but yeah, that's mostly how we do it.
Yeah, because I mean, in the beginning, it was kind of all about like, our cameras are all crappy on our phones, so we're going to have all these fun filters. And now it's like,
you never even touch a filter. You might edit the photo a little bit.
Yeah, like if you're editing in the Instagram app, like I feel like most people are just not doing that, you know?
Which I like because, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's nice to just see the actual image and not have so many filters over.
Yeah, and like the frames. Remember the little goofy frames?
It's fun to scroll back on your personal feed and see what your photos looked like.
Yeah, I've definitely archived a good many that I'm not. They were just stupid.
Yeah, like, I have a few of those.
Just cringy. Like I can't have this out in public anymore. I need to archive this. But yeah, I want to talk about Instagram because I feel like a lot of people can relate to that side of things as well, because also you see so much, at least for me, I'm on Instagram a lot. So I'm always curious about how brands and businesses run their stuff on platforms like that. And also Facebook ads are super interesting to me and very confusing.
Do you do any Facebook ads for your podcast?
No.
No?
I want to start, but I've realized like right now, I can get a lot of organic growth just by posting on my personal Facebook that it's not the number one thing that I'm like focused on. And also one thing that I do on my Instagram just to get, because I think I mentioned this, Instagram is my number one source of traffic actually, which is really kind of weird for podcasts because most podcasts I feel like don't have a very good Instagram presence.
Yeah, I don't know how most podcasts even promote it. I just find them on iTunes when I'm looking for a new one.
Exactly. And that's the hard part, is getting featured on iTunes. And like that was another reason why I wanted to put so many out there in the beginning, because I wanted to have a higher amount of downloads. But anyways, I'm not featured in iTunes right now.
Not yet.
Hopefully I will be. But yeah, like a lot of podcasts are not on iTunes. But what I'll do is when I post a new episode, I'll like go and see who is following. Like, so for example, my friend Sean or whatever, I had him on my show. So then I went through his pictures and like went and liked people and followed people that are already following him. So I kind of get like cross like promotion sort of. And then they're smart. Oh, I'm friends with Sean. Like, oh wow, he's on this podcast, you know? And that's how like a lot of it grows. But
that's really smart. And honestly, I think that's what some brands for sure miss. It's not just about posting cool content, it's the engagement piece. So
exactly,
that's great.
Because people want to like follow someone that's like one of their pictures, or like you don't want to just follow someone because you're like, you know, you'd rather have the interaction part. Like, oh, they liked my photo, sure, I'll follow them now.
Yeah,
like there's always that kind of push and pull of it.
That's for sure.
Yeah. But it's funny because when I think of a PR agency, like you said in the beginning, you're not necessarily also thinking about the like content side of things. Right. Do you think that's like how the industry is just kind of going.
Yeah, and that's why we changed our model. The other reason was when I started dancing, I knew I wanted to travel. I see my agency long-term being based in Atlanta and Los Angeles possibly. So as much as we can do with just like media relations, journalists have such a hard job. Like they're expected to write so many stories. So it's hard for them to respond. Like everyone knows news is changing. And it's just great that brands can directly reach out to their customers without having to rely solely on the media.
Yeah, like the opinion of some guy.
Yeah, so it just makes sense. I feel like it's a natural evolution. There's obviously a lot of value in like the credibility that media provides for a brand, and that's why, you know, I plan to always have that be part of the brand, and we are called LPR. But content is huge, and there's just so much power behind it. It didn't make sense to not take that into consideration.
Yeah.
I felt like we could do more for our customers having that piece versus like piecing everything together and trying to help them out with that. That's what we were doing a lot, was basically sort of doing some of what we're doing now. So then I just decided to like organize it and get a good team in place and figure out how to package it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because I think a lot of people get too romantic with their business of how like, oh, this is how I started it and this is how I want it to be, and they don't let it evolve.
I feel like that's death for anything. If you don't grow and evolve, then it's going to die, or you'll just be like have hard sells all the time, just pushing the same thing. If you're not kind of paying attention to what's happening, then I don't know how anyone could do that or would want to. Yeah,
exactly. It's kind of like a bad relationship or something that you like always have wanted, but it isn't really meant to be, but you're forcing it into this box that doesn't really work.
Oh, that gets me stressed just thinking about it. It's awful.
My friend was talking to me about this the other day. She's like, you don't date very many people. I'm like, I think it's just because I see so many red flags right off the bat. Like, I think it's probably a good thing.
Probably.
You know, like, I'm like, yeah, I don't really want to date you because I could just see this going really badly or whatever.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't. It's easy. It's not easy. It seems like it's easy for some people to just not pay attention to the red flags. But then once you get sucked in, then you're in. So it's smarter to be cautious.
Yeah, it's kind of, I mean, it's like, you know, it's like when people from the outside looking in are like, oh, you're in an abusive relationship, just leave.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're kind of sucked in, and especially when there's so many pieces involved you have no idea about, it's like you can't just leave all the time. There's complications with everything.
Yeah.
But on a not so
I was like,
sad
God,
and
let's not
stressful.
talk about
I was going to say,
lost.
no, definitely not.
Awful.
No, I wanted to ask you about something, and I totally lost track. But we were talking about how your business evolved. Oh yeah, you were saying you wanted to travel more and stuff like that. Is that like a huge part of where you see your business going? Because I'm super into traveling too.
Really? Yeah. I mean, I think most people love to travel these days, but I've had clients, we've grown a little bit. We've had clients in like Minnesota, and now that we're doing more things online, it just gives me the ability to travel more and to have a more diverse group of clients. I love LA. I've been dying here like the last 2 weeks. It's been so cold. I'm not built for this. I've put on 2 pairs of pants when I walk my dog in the morning. It's awful. It's awful.
That's hilarious.
So, I mean, I love Atlanta. It's just, I like the flexibility that my business allows me right now. And there are great things like video calls, and we have a good system so our clients always know what's happening. And yeah, I don't necessarily see myself staying here forever full time.
Yeah. Do you think that's like hard for maybe some of your employees or whatever that you would be leaving, or are they like into that as well?
No, honestly, I mean, I have one of my employees is based in Austin. So the way I have things set up right now, it could work. Like that's something that was a big focus of mine last year, because in 2016, my business wasn't that way. I was very much like going for the local boutique PR girl, but then I realized I didn't want to be like at restaurants 4 nights a week, like chatting up media all the time, talking about food or whatever. I wanted more flexibility, and that's what I thought I wanted to do in the beginning. So last year, that's when we really started making changes and offered more like content and more digital marketing. And there's just so much power behind that I think it's more valuable than just the small, like we know a couple people at AJC and we focus on this or that. Not to discredit any of those people because there are some great PR firms here in Atlanta, but it wasn't what I wanted. And if your business doesn't serve your dreams and your goals, then I don't really understand the point of having one. I feel like you could just get a well-paying job and do that. So that was a major transition I made last year that we're continuing this year, and hopefully it'll get a little bit easier. It seems like it's more natural now. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like traveling, I mean, with the internet, of course, the internet's changing everything.
Yeah.
The internet has opened so many doors of being able to work remotely and all this kind of stuff.
It's amazing.
And I think that a lot more people are very focused on traveling now because, I mean, some people just don't get it, I feel like. You know, like, why would you want to travel? I really like to just kind of stay in my place or whatever. And that's fine. Like, one thing, we were talking about 4-hour work week before. Like, I love the idea of Tim Ferriss's, like, mini retirements where he's like, I'm just going to go somewhere for, like, 3 months, 6 months and, like, relocate there for a little while. Like, I love the idea of that.
It's amazing. And there are so many different ways to live these days that are really cool. You know, if you own a place, you can sublease it and you could live somewhere. I think in 4-hour work week, like you could live like a king in Thailand and be on the beach, and it's really, really cheap. That's not necessarily what I'm looking to do. Maybe a couple of weeks there, that'd be great. But there are really cool ways to live now. So I want to take advantage of that while I'm young, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly how I feel, because I think once I get tied down, like the idea of like getting tied down to one specific place just kind of freaks me out in some ways.
Yeah, me too.
And like I want to have the ability to just kind of like pack up my stuff and like leave if I need to or whatever. I don't know why I have that like tendency, but not necessarily in a way where I want to like abandon everyone or like, oh, screw this place, I'm leaving. It's more of like, I want the flexibility and I don't want to feel that like weight on me of being like tied to a place.
And I think the monotony of knowing what every day will look like, flexibility and freedom were two big things I was focusing on last year, and they're still important. Now I'm like honing in on how to make more specific things happen, but no, I get what you're saying. Yeah. In the same way.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I was going to say we've gone for like almost an hour.
Oh, wow. That went by really fast.
Yeah. I was going to say, is there anything that you want to share specifically or that we haven't talked about or anything like that? Because I always try to, at the end especially, have, you know, have anything that you need to say or anything that you want to promote or anything like that?
I don't think so. I feel like we covered all the main points. Yeah.
Or words of wisdom. I'm just kidding.
Words of wisdom. Just do it.
Just do it. I like it. That's awesome. Well, if people want to like reach out to you or if people want to hire you as their PR firm or whatever.
My website is LPR.com. Our Instagram handle is LPR_. And then my personal Instagram is Noelle Jackson XO, NOELLEJACKSONXO. So business stuff, go to the website and all my information's on there.
If people want to like reach out to you with a question or something, where's the like best place to reach you?
Email. My email is noelle@lpr.com. I think it's on my website.
Cool. Yeah, because I know some people are like, Instagram DM or like, you know.
No, I don't like DMs. I feel like there are too many places to check.
Yeah.
To check messages and
that's so true.
For some, it just depends on the person, but like if it's someone you don't know, I think it's easier to do email.
Definitely. I agree.
Yeah.
Well, Noelle, thanks for
Thank
sharing
you.
with us.
This was so much fun.
Yeah, I'm glad that we were able to do this.
Me too.
All right. See you later,
All
everybody.
Right. Thanks.
There you have it, folks. Another episode in the tank. I want to thank Noelle again for being on the show and sharing her stories with us. It was a very insightful episode, and I learned a lot. Hope you guys did too. Make sure you go follow her on all of her social media channels. I'll be linking everything in the show notes for sure. And, hey, you made it to the end. That's good stuff. that's probably a good sign that you enjoyed this episode, right? Hopefully. So if you enjoyed this episode, I have a strong feeling that you would also really enjoy going back to listen to episode 45 with my friend Hillary Billings. And Hillary's like the epitome of what I love in a podcast guest, because just like Noelle, you can't seem to put her in a box. She does all kinds of stuff. She does on-camera hosting, red carpets, behind-the-scenes interviews. She's a contributing writer for many big publications. She's a former Miss Nevada. After graduating from college, she was a full-time nomadic traveler, blogging about her experiences, and she's visited tons of really amazing and exotic places. I think Hillary had some of the most fascinating stories I've ever heard on my podcast, and her story is really inspiring and amazing. If you haven't heard it yet, you definitely need to. Again, that was episode 45. It's called Nomad to Miss Nevada with Hillary Billings. Another podcast that you'd probably enjoy is episode 8 with Elizabeth Ward. Elizabeth is also a professional dancer. She's an artist, world traveler, model, and athlete. And she shared a ton of stories with me, including her views on college and why she will not be going back after 3 years, moving to Germany, being a nude body painting model, being homeless, sleeping in her car, and selling selfies on Instagram. And to this day, that is one of the most popular episodes I have uploaded, probably because of the clickbait title. It's called, I think it's called Selling Nude Selfies. But it's not clickbait, because we actually talked about that. So it's real, and you should definitely go check it out. It was a really fun episode. One of the first episodes I ever did, episode 8. Go check it out. And up next, we got episode 70 with Maya Elias. Maya is a personal branding strategist who works with faith-based coaches and also consults to help them put themselves online, create passive income, and reach people that they wouldn't normally be able to reach. And she's created a huge following online. It's amazing to hear her story of how she dropped out of college to start her business. I just recorded that podcast earlier today, and it was a great time. I think if you enjoyed this episode with Noelle, you will also probably like that one coming up with Maya as well. So be on the lookout. It'll be coming out next week. I'll be in Mexico, but I'll be uploading. If you want to support the podcast, the best way to do that is to go to iTunes and rate 5 stars. Now, that might seem like a very complicated process, but it's actually pretty straightforward. You just find the podcast in the Apple Podcasts app on your iPhone, or you can go to iTunes on your computer, and you just click 5 stars or 4 stars or 3 stars or however many stars you think I deserve. I like the 5-star flavor. But also, if you want to write me a little review, that's the best place to leave comments and feedback. I read all of the reviews there, and I think right now we're at 52 or 53 reviews, and that's kind of pathetic because this is episode 69. We probably should have more reviews, to be honest. So if you can go review that, it would be great, because I know there's thousands of people listening, and it only takes a few minutes to go review it. That would really, really help me. Also, you can share the podcast by word of mouth. That would be also very helpful. Every person is looking for a new podcast, right? So if you hear a conversation, hey, I just listened to this awesome Andrew Deitch podcast. You should check it out. That would mean the world to me, especially if you enjoyed it. If you didn't enjoy it, then you don't have to share it. But I'm rambling. If you want to follow me, you can go to my website, andrewdeitch.com. Like I said, I'm heading to Mexico next week, heading to Cabo. Poor little me. So the next time you hear from me, I'll hopefully be a little bit more tan. But it's not the first podcast to be uploaded from outside of the country, but it is definitely the first one to be uploaded from Mexico. I am just hoping the Wi-Fi will be good enough for me to continue uploading. But I was originally going to try to upload a bunch of episodes next week, but I think I'm just going to take it easy and go for the one upload in Mexico. Legendary episode 70 with Maya. But thank you guys so much for listening. If you made it all the way to the end here, that means that I truly appreciate you. Hopefully you're a hardcore fan. And I like I said, I really appreciate you guys. And I will talk to you guys in the next one. Peace out.
I'm not built for this. I put on 2 pairs of pants when I walk my dog in the morning. It's awful.